What was it? What was the takeaway after doing a podcast with She Who Shall Not Be Named with Candace? What was it? What was the takeaway?
She who shall not be named. The takeaway? Well, look, at the time, the very first podcast we did, there was a lot of reaction to when people were getting things wrong, especially as Israel and in Gaza, when that war was going on, there was a combination of bad actors who were peddling falsehoods, the ones that always did historically, left-wing press, BBC, misreporting, misleading, distorting. And there's a lot of people who willfully distort the narrative and are deceptive. And then there's a lot of people for the very first time entering this space, seeing this for the first time and having questions, because for the first time, this conflict was really at the center of pop culture in a way that it never had been before. I mean, I've been following what's going on in Israel. I have family there. I'd lived there for a year after high school, between college. I'm very connected to the issue and I'm very educated on it. But a lot of people were entering with questions, curiosity, ignorance. And so I felt that a lot of people who obviously for good reason felt vulnerable and fragile after October 7th, it was such a trauma to what had happened that they reacted to anybody who were getting the issues wrong with the same tools. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so they weren't discerning between evil and ignorance, hate and ignorance. Now, at the time, Candace was presenting as someone, starting to veer off this issue and asking questions that were obviously and saying statements that were ignorant and wrong. But I wanted to approach that first because there were so many people. What they would do is you'd write a hit piece or an article, you'd name and shame, and you essentially basically message to your own echo chamber, and you'd get, encouragement from your own echo chamber, but it didn't actually do anything. I felt constructively across the aisle to help maybe move the needle and provide some clarity on the issue. I called her out in a tweet. She was starting to tweet some ridiculous things. She shared a tweet from the Queen of Jordan, of all people, saying how Jews were weaponizing anti-Semitism to silence people into compliance. Now, I just felt like she was representing a viewpoint that was really misreading the October 7th and 8th moment and applying sort of a BLM cancel culture environment to an environment that I think it didn't apply, even though there were parallels. And there's two approaches there. You can sort of name and shame and scream and yell about it and get all upset. But I figured, hey, here's an opportunity. I did call her out rather firmly on Twitter. I think she had been a fan of some of the other early impressions I had done. And she invited me on the show to discuss it. So I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to show how to have a civil dialogue, an educational opportunity to demonstrate my view. I'm not afraid of people getting the issue wrong. And I don't think people in the Zionist or Jewish community should be afraid of ignorance. And that was what happened at the time. And we had a conversation. She was still on the Daily Wire at the time. And I think being civil, I didn't go on the attack. I really tried to kind of listen. And I felt at the time there's a difference between ignorance and hate. And hate is one thing, and that should be dealt with accordingly, and ignorance should be dealt in another way, because there is this middle that can easily be corrupted by all these dangerous, nefarious actors and pathologies. And then there's the people that actually peddle the dangerous pathologies. There's a difference between the two. So I wanted to make an attempt to do that. Now, we had a civil conversation. I think it was received really well. And I left it at that. About a few months later, she kept going down the rabbit hole, and I think demonstrated herself to really be much more resentful and wicked and have actually bad intentions. But I felt it was necessary to button up our first conversation, revisit it. And it was sort of post Kanye West and, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, not some Jewish people. Candace kept inserting the word some every time she would quote the tweet. She would misquote the tweet. And I started to see, I really didn't appreciate, having that first conversation, in good faith, and then seeing her patterns of behavior continue. And then we had one more final conversation. I debated Dave Smith on the episode, and then we did a follow-up episode, just her and I. Thought it kind of ended decently. It was a little more contentious. And then the day after that episode aired, she airs an episode. I thought we had reached an understanding, but then the day after, an episode was aired where she doubted the Mengele experiments and said, I just think, why would you do that? It just seems really, really bizarre, like a waste of time and supplies, and started really just introducing more and more toxic, gross, offensive, dangerous ideas, distortions of history, really, really nasty stuff. And then after that, I was just like, you know what? It's starting to be very, very clear that she's not a truth seeker here with intellectual curiosity. There's a lot more of a wicked, nefarious game going on. And so, but, I still stand by the conversations as demonstrations and how to, in a measured, calm way, deal with ideas you find objectionable. And there's a difference between the person and the ideas they're putting out. Someone could tell you in their heart they don't feel a certain way about anything. Fine. I believe you. That's what's in your heart. I can't tell you what's in your heart. It's sort of like a left-wing tactic to say what's in people's brains and their hearts.
Right.
I could say, fine, you say you don't feel the way. I don't care what's in your heart. I don't care what you feel inside. I'm judging your behavior. And right now we've entered currently not the marketplace of ideas. We are now in the marketplace of conduct. Okay. So whenever you hear this, oh, well, then come on and debate me. Let's discuss it. Just remember, we're discussing conduct at this point, not ideas. And I think we've seen that, especially post Charlie Kirk, and how Candace is handling Erica Kirk, his widow, and the things she's doing and stooping lower and lower to the depths of real, wicked, evil types of behavior. And people like Tucker, who are doing all these kinds of things to sort of mainstream the worst ideas that have been put to bed for a long time. We're judging conduct. So let's remember to make a distinction between conduct and ideas.
I know you like that episode. This is actually a clip from a larger live stream. The link is down in the description, so you can go check it out. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you down there. Grace and peace.